How's it going? Welcome back to another great video with the majestic host, the Savior, yes, and today I'm kind of excited to be taking a look at this new survival MMO experience that we have here. So I'm going to be giving you my Enshrouded review and basically just tell you what this game is, if you should even care about it, because let's be honest, okay? We get so many survival building games come into early access. Early access at this point has become a kind of cesspool of just copy and pasted games. It's sad to say, but I don't really trust early access games like I used to, not anymore. For quite a long time now, we've seen that early access can basically just be classed as a lazy kind of label. Because a lot of the times these games get abandoned, a lot of the time the developers don't actually ever release the game into a full release, and sometimes it can be a complete scam. Just look at the day before. I knew that was a scam. I think most people with a brain knew that that was a scam, but still, some people, I actually got, fanboys of the game in my comments because they actually thought it was going to be a real game, which just shows you the level of marketing and just where the gaming industry is at the moment with, early access release titles and just the power of marketing. You can't really trust anything, so please be wise. And if you are wise, then subscribe, because that's what we're all about here. Ooh, did I shill hard enough? And also, maybe a little bit more, just check out my music on Spotify. Thank you very much, I would appreciate it. Whatever you can muster, okay? If it's a donation, a simple subscribe, or checking out my music, just know that you mean a lot to me and I appreciate it. You might be thinking, Savior, you just don't like multiplayer games, or you don't like early access survival games. Well, no, that's not true. There are some titles out there that have actually been a huge success for a good reason, Valheim being a prime example. I would definitely say that Enshrouded takes a lot of inspiration from games like Minecraft, from Valheim, and for good reason, because Valheim was very successful. It was such a good game. Go watch my recent review on Valheim just in the last year. I discussed it with my friend, and it's such a good time. And I think this could have the potential to be very successful, like Valheim did, because the world that they created here isn't just randomly generated. It does have some love and craft into it, and the fact that you can literally destroy everything, literally everything, like you can in Minecraft, is another reason why I think this is a big deal, because it does have semi-realistic graphics, so the fact that everything is built on a block-based system is very cool. It has a very nice aesthetic and art style to it, so I think this will actually make the game much more popular than something like, just pixel-based. I also think it's interesting that they actually care about the lore in this game, and they've actually put detail into that, which again makes this stand out compared to other games. And although you might just say this looks like a Valheim clone, I think it is trying to do something a little bit different. It's not doing a Viking theme. This is much more of a rich fantasy, high fantasy kind of world. And the fact, like I said, the art style is very unique. It does have some deep dungeons and stuff like that, which is cool. And what I really love about this game, and basically this Enshrouded review is based on the early gameplay that I've played, but obviously it's subject to change when it comes out fully, but pretty much as it stands as early access. That's why I'm giving you this Enshrouded review, because if you want to get into this, then of course you will have to tap in to the early access. But I just think the combat here is actually pretty good. For a multiplayer game like this, combat isn't usually the biggest thing. It's more focused around building or exploration, crafting, all that kind of stuff. And Valheim, as much as I love that game, I've got to be honest, the combat system isn't great. The way you can actually interact and shape the level design and make it look like something that was actually built, in-game, that something actually existed. It's not just randomly, player created. That to me is what really makes this game stand out. And the fact, like I said, the combat it's not super deep, but there is a lot of nuance to it. It does actually feel good. I wouldn't say it feels as good as something like a single-player Souls-like, but it does feel good. and I think that's very important in a multiplayer experience. I didn't experience much lag or anything like that. The complexity of player agency in a game like this is very important, especially in a multiplayer game, because it really makes you feel like a unique character. Whereas most modern day gaming nowadays is all about perk trees and following a linear progression path, which I'm pretty sick of, to be honest, and I think a lot of gamers are. Let's be honest, it's very, very stale now. For the last like 10 years, we've got the same thing, you know, just unlock a perk point and then put something in a perk tree. Voila, you've got, you know, a magical percentage increase, or you've unlocked a magical skill, but it doesn't really change the gameplay much. Here you can really roleplay as unique characters because it isn't a perk skill system. You have this wide, you know, ocean of choice when it comes to how you want to progress as a character. There's no like locked in class or locked in skill tree, so you can really choose from, you know, mage builds mixing with like sword and shield build, so you can kind of become like a spell sword, or the same thing with a bow and arrow, or just go full mage, stuff like that, which I think does make this game stand out compared to other games. And it isn't getting much recognition, which is a shame, because I honestly think this does have potential, a lot of potential, something that we haven't seen again since Valheim. I do hope you are enjoying this Enshrouded review, and like I said, please do drop a like, because apparently that does help the magical algorithm, which I am a slave to, and I would appreciate it. And like I said, do subscribe. But for this Enshrouded Game review, I'm not really going into the positives and negatives like I do with most of my reviews, because like I said, this is early access, so I do hope things will change, but the developers have actually got a good record behind them. They've never done something as big as this, not something on this kind of scale before, but their past games aren't, you know, ruinous, you know, like crimes that have tried to be covered up. Like I said, some early access titles are like that. They've actually got, you know, a game behind them which was positively received, so that is good news. I'm getting pretty tired of these kind of AI almost generated worlds. You know, even big AAA games are using that type of technology now, like Starfield, and I think it's a conversation we really need to have as humanity progresses. You know, how much is this kind of randomly generated content is going to change our world? Obviously not just in gaming, but in life in general. You know, are we going to rely on it for absolutely everything? For education, for scientific research, for media, for content creators? Will music cease to be, you know, real music and everything will just be randomly generated, so the art becomes meaningless because it can just be created without the human touch? And a lot of, you know, randomly generated games like Minecraft, for example, they do have that feeling to me. I know a lot of people love those types of experiences, but to me, I really love a handcrafted experience in a game, in an experience like that, because it's the detail that I care about. It's making this place feel believable, and having just like a randomly generated map like in Valheim, as much as I love that game because of the mechanics, I never fall in love with the level design or the world space. But here it's a little bit different, and the map is around 25 kilometers wide, so it doesn't go on forever, which is nice. A slight thing that I don't really like is they didn't really innovate with the crafting system. I really liked how Valheim kind of, you know, simulated the human evolution progression of going from Bronze Age to like iron and all that kind of stuff. Here it's not so clever, it's rather simplistic, but I just love the world space, and I like the combat because, you know, it's not the most complicated thing, it's not like the most difficult either, but it does have a skill level to it. It's not just mindlessly whacking at an enemy, you can do stealth kills, it even has like a cool little animation. You will actually have to dodge roll and time your attacks. No, it's not like Dark Souls, but it does have a good feeling to it, and it's pretty fast paced, and I just like how you get that visceral feedback. And of course there are bosses, not many at this point, but there are bosses, which is cool. And I think a lot of people who loved Valheim or games like The Witcher 3 will like this, because you can actually experience a fantasy world but with your buddies. So what are you actually doing in this game? Well, you're exploring dungeons, of course you're crafting and all that kind of stuff, but the thing that I really like about this is the fact that there is a sense of progression, because you are destroying these kind of mist hubs. Basically everything has been infected by this twisted mist, okay, which is like a dark magic that's kind of destroying the world, and you can destroy these hub areas and kind of clear the mist out, and then you get more crafting recipes and gear as you progress the game, of course. I just hope that the developers stick with it. I hope they add more lore to it to make it more of a compelling world that feels more realized. But I think something that we just haven't seen before in modern day gaming is a voxel block-based world, but actually making it look, you know, realistic. It's not hyper-realistic, it's got its own unique art style, which I like. Kind of reminds me of the old Fable games. We don't need everything to be hyper-realistic, but the fact that everything is destructible, but it's not pixel graphics, it's just a nice change of pace. And I just like what they're doing here. It reminds me a little bit of games like Red Faction, where you can destroy everything, and sometimes that actually plays into the level design, you know, how you want to tackle these bases and stuff like that. And then it also does have Breath of the Wild type mechanics, where you can jump from high places after climbing them and glide away, which is pretty cool. And something that I really appreciate, okay? I'm pretty sick and tired of games where you have to manage your hunger, you have to manage your water. Fair enough if you like that type of thing, and I used to like that, but now I just find it kind of wastes my time. I just want to play a game. You know, I can be immersed and feel like I'm in a realistic game world without having to constantly feed or worry about sleep. You know, I have to do that enough in real life, so I don't really want that in gaming. And I like the fact that this is kind of a survival light. It's more focused on the exploration and the combat, which is something I really like. It doesn't punish you too much for not, you know, sleeping or eating and stuff like that. So it's much more of an adventure-based game, and I think that's really refreshing for this type of multiplayer experience. And I just think, you know, we need to see more games like that, and I'm happy that we're getting more games in the multiplayer scene like this, and I hope we get to see more of these things, you know, with local split screen and stuff like that, because that's what we really need in gaming today. So I just hope they don't fail and it's actually a successful launch. So that is my brief Enshrouded review. I do think it is worth your time if you like that type of gaming experience, if you enjoyed games like Fable and the kind of couch co-op experience of that, or you like that type of kind of looter exploration and crafting system. And I just think it's cool that you can be super detailed with this and craft, you know, on a kind of block to block scale, and then you can just have these preset houses made for you if you don't like that type of thing. And just the fact that this is destructible, everything is destructible, that makes my monkey brain go ooh, 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 because I just like blowing shit up. I love physics in gaming. Nothing makes a game feel more realistic and just awesome to me than just moving it around, jiggling it around. I just love physics in gaming, and this has all of that. So I think it's very rare for a multiplayer game to have that, so hopefully it turns out good. I do hope you enjoyed this Enshrouded review, and yeah, maybe I'll cover more games like this in the future, but usually only if they really stand out, because that's what we need to highlight in any type of media, because it is getting stagnant, because the culture is in decay, let's be honest. So if you want to fight back the culture decay, then make sure you do subscribe and watch my other content, because that will help, I guess. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.